The study session for the Aurora City Council for Monday, July 22nd, 2024 is called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Hoffman.
Here.
Councilmember Bergen.
Here.
Councilmember Coombs.
Present.
Councilmember Gardner. Councilmember Hancock.
Here.
Councilmember Drinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Murillo.
Present.
Councilmember Sundberg.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Zavala.
Here.
There's no mayor update. Are there any issue updates? Seeing none, is there any objection to moving the consent calendar forward, item number 2A to 2C? Seeing no objection, that consent calendar will move forward, item 2A to 2C. Item number 5A, 151 Potomac Street Greenhouse Lease Agreement, resolution, Councilmember Murillo.
I think this one's pretty straightforward. We've talked about the greenhouses for some time now. A couple years ago, we allocated budget towards the project. It was requested at the time that we do some additional due diligence, vetting, requested a business plan, operating plan from the organization, and then also opened it up for an RFP for other organizations to make a bid on programming the greenhouses, and that's what's happened, and we're bringing it back hopefully to be able to program this asset. Just some quick context for folks who are just tuning into this session and have not followed this item. The city had several greenhouses that have not been in use for, I think, almost like 10 years now at this point. And so when I was re-elected in 21, I did a facilities tour of all of our different facilities and found that the greenhouses are just basically storing lawnmowers. We used to use them more when we did more landscaping, but since we've transitioned more to a kind of zero-scaping philosophy in the city, we have less and less use for these greenhouses. One update being that this last winter season, one of the greenhouses, the roof caved in, ironically enough. If it would have been in use, we could have avoided that, but they've still had a structural engineer come and approve the integrity for the greenhouses, and hopefully we can make an idle city asset put back in use for the community. So that's really as straightforward as it is. We're speaking specifically on the lease agreement. The last time we spoke about this, we worked with Councilmember Bergen to shorten the lease term by a few years. And I think it was a good suggestion to, instead of an initial 5-year term, to reduce that to 3 years as another mechanism for oversight from the city, and then they'd have the option to renew from that point on. So I believe the ask has shifted a little bit, since I think they're only going to be programming one of the one greenhouse, since the other one is no longer, has actually been torn down. The mayor did a site visit a week or so ago, and that's my objection. It's nothing really new here, and I believe we have a few speakers, or at least one from Food Justice Northwest Aurora. I don't know if she's online or where she's at. have any staff presentations.
Because we
can
are,
start
we'll
off with
fill
that.
in for Hector Reynoso.
Thank you.
Property.
Yeah, I see a few speakers on here. Thank you.
I see we have Stefan Finch on from Real Property. Stefan, please chime in as I move through the presentation. We have members from pros to answer questions as well about the greenhouse. So this proposal, as Councilmember Medio had mentioned, has been in front of council several times in regards to leasing of the greenhouse. Hector is here. I'm going to invite Hector up to come and present about the lease terms specifically that have changed since this went before council last.
For some reason, I thought this started at 5:20. Excuse me. But Hector Reynoso, Public Works Department, Real Property Services Division, here at the City of Aurora. So last year, the city solicited an RFP to rent out 3 greenhouses located at 151 Potomac Street. The original proposal was to share the space with FJNWA, Food Justice Northwest Aurora, because initially the city was going to lease out greenhouse number 1, greenhouse number 2, and then demolish the really small one there next to the building that you can't really see, or greenhouse number 3. In March of 2024, we had a snowstorm, and there was a preventable collapse of greenhouse number 1. So the standalone greenhouse there, it was not in use at the time. So the snow accumulated on top of the roof and just caused it to collapse. But putting them into good use could help that moving forward. The initial request was for City Council, and I think in 2021 City Council reserved set aside $350,000 for renovations to all 3 of the greenhouses. In last year's proposal, greenhouse number 1, the one that collapsed, was expected to cost about $100,000 to renovate. Greenhouse number 2, or the one that's still standing and attached to the building, was expected to cost about $250,000 to renovate. And there was going to be funds available to demolish the small greenhouse number 3 that just, it's more efficient to demolish it than to rebuild it. And so due to the collapse this year and some shifts in the pros department and how they operate, the pros department will be moving next door here to the central facility. And so that availed the entire site, 2.685 acres of land, and the administrative building and the greenhouse for lease to be used for greenhouse purposes. So this year's proposal is to lease out the entirety of the 2.685 acres to Food Justice Northwest Aurora for greenhouse purposes. Instead of a $350,000 capital renovation, we are requesting $250,000 to renovate the greenhouse that is still standing, and Food Justice Northwest Aurora is going to contribute an additional $100,000 worth of capital improvements to the building, including ADA upgrades and a couple of other improvements that I would like to turn it over to Caitlin Matthews, Executive Director of the Food Justice Northwest Aurora, to tell you all about.
Thank you, Hector. Were there any other slides that you wanted to show in your presentation? Right. Well, thank you all for the opportunity to present today on Cultivate Aurora. We're happy to be here to provide an overview as well as updates on the project. My name is Caitlin Matthews. I'm the Executive Director of Food Justice Northwest Aurora. I have been the project lead on the community greenhouse proposal, including the development of the business plan, the financial model, and the operations plan. I'm also the fundraising lead on this project, and we have some very exciting fundraising updates. And I'm here with my colleague, Jenna Smith.
Hello everyone, my name is Jenna Smith. I run a consulting firm called Agro Eco Solutions. I provide advising to farm and food systems projects. I have my primary expertise is in greenhouse production. I have over 8 years of greenhouse production experience. including managing a greenhouse slightly larger than the Aurora greenhouse that's still standing, where I established and managed that greenhouse, oversaw staff, oversaw volunteers. I was responsible for developing the standard operating procedures and all technical aspects of production in that space. About 2 years ago, I started my consulting firm, AgroEco Solutions. I have clients including CU Denver and a number of other for and nonprofits around the country, including a couple that are international. I've also worked with the city of Wheat Ridge through CU Denver. I also have been for 6 years. I was sitting on the Denver Sustainable Food Policy Council, so I'm very well connected with food production, urban agriculture in Denver metro area. And then I've been a member of the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, the National Young Farmers Coalition, and Mile High Farmers.
All right, so the greenhouses are a vital and valuable piece of food systems infrastructure, but they have not been used for their full potential in over almost 15 years. So the opportunity we had is to launch an innovative partnership between the City of Aurora and Food Justice Northwest Aurora to reactivate this space for community programming, food production, and job creation. This opportunity is also a great way for Aurora to demonstrate leadership and innovation in food projects, which are of increasing interest in municipalities across the region and the country. And the City of Aurora's investment in the greenhouse renovation would be significantly leveraged with additional funding from foundations and other sources for additional capital improvements, job creation, and community programming. The Cultivate Aurora vision is to grow food-producing plant starts and perennials for Aurora's residents, organizations, and farms, and to provide education and training in urban agriculture and food production to Aurora's residents. We will also create year-round and seasonal jobs and offer workforce training. The Cultivate Aurora model was developed through the development of the business plan, the operations plan, and the financial model. This was to ensure that we could launch and sustain a nonprofit greenhouse that is financially viable. So we did extensive market and industry research. We also have many years of experience in greenhouse production and community programming. We modeled the productive capacity of the greenhouse, which then informed our sales and grants revenue model. We've got detailed cost analysis on startup and operations every year. And through these documents, we demonstrate that we have a financially viable project for years to come. We developed the vision and the model for the greenhouse project in collaboration with other community organizations, farms, and educators, including our three urban farms here in Aurora, Delaney Farm, Village Farm, and Urban Symbiosis. We've also been in close collaboration with Denver Urban Gardens, which administers 21 community gardens across Aurora, and then several resident-led projects like the Aurora Seed Farm and the Georgia Green Project, which focus on education. And also the horticulture program at Pickens Technical College is a great connection for both educational and employment opportunities. We're very excited to be another site for the students and alumni of the horticulture program to get job training and also maybe even progress in some of the full-time positions. Ongoing, the partners will continue to be program advisory partners, ensuring that our programming is aligned with the community's needs, technical advisory partners for greenhouse production, sales and distribution partners to ensure that we have multiple points of distribution throughout the community, throughout the growing season, educational programming partners, so collaborating on workshops and offerings like that, and also our partners have demonstrated significant interest in being customers of the greenhouse. The benefits to the Aurora community are many. First and foremost, the creation of jobs. So there are both full-time and part-time jobs in the greenhouses for both food production and educational programming. In the seasonal jobs, there are about 1,200 to 1,500 hours each year that we're looking forward to being able to employ, again, alumni and students of Pickens Tech, as well as Aurora residents. And we're exploring the opportunities for youth leadership and employment programming. We, through the greenhouses, will be able to increase local food production. So there is a robust community garden and home garden network in Aurora. We know that distributing these plants out into the community amplifies and magnifies the impact of harvest and production. And through that, then we can improve access to fresh food, particularly in parts of the city that are distant from full-service grocery stores or where specific varieties of produce are not available in store. And then through educating more community growers, we ensure that the plants that go out from the greenhouse have the greatest chance to thrive and produce an abundant harvest. And this is where we have many, many opportunities also for youth engagement, including in partnerships with Aurora Public Schools. The three major sales and distribution channels are through direct to the Aurora community. This is, again, through that robust network of home gardeners, balcony gardeners, container gardeners, community gardens. The farmer contract grows. Not only are nonprofit farms here in Aurora, but many other small-scale farm productions do not have access to greenhouses. Greenhouses are really essential for season extension. In Colorado, we have a very short growing season. We have some extreme weather and hail to contend with, and there's an unmet need for greenhouse space and plant starts throughout the growing season, spring through fall. Our third major group for our sales and distribution channels are organizational and institutional partners. These are clients that will be purchasing plants at a much larger volume. So for example, Denver Urban Gardens runs their Grow a Garden program. It's a gardening startup kit that includes about a dozen plant starts. They distribute this through a pay-what-you-can model each year to about 200 households in Aurora, as well as 2,000 households in the metro area and growing. We also have factored into our model the opportunity to continue to provide space and partner with Aurora's Parks, Recreation, and Open Space to grow native plants for the parks, medians, etc. And the greenhouses, being a critical infrastructure, could have other connections with the local food economy, including not only residents, farms, and organizations, but also small businesses and entrepreneurs like restaurants, caterers, and food trucks. I'm going to pass over to Jenna, who's going to talk a little bit more about the actual renovation of the greenhouses. Thanks.
So through the project development, we have identified Prospient as the company that is going to be the most effective, best suited to handle a renovation project of this size and scope. So Prospient formerly was a greenhouse construction company called Nexus, and roughly they provide a little bit more of the maintenance side of things with greenhouse production. So together they have collectively over 100 years of combined experience working in the greenhouse industry. So they're a full-service company that provides everything from project development, project management, all the way through construction, structural engineering, and like I said, also maintenance. They have served a number of different market segments, including those that are commercial, institutional, retail, and for vegetable production. They are considered a leading business within the ag tech industry, and that's obvious based on some of the clients just here in Colorado that they have that include the Denver Botanic Gardens, CSU, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Pickens Technical College, which is here in Aurora, and the Dahlia Campus for Health and Wellbeing. So I have direct experience working with this company as well and can attest to the quality of their work. Excuse me. So here I just want to show you a couple of examples of some of their past renovations, just to show, these are similar to the size and scope of the project in Aurora, just to show you some before and after what updates might look like. So here on this you can see the glazing, which is the polycarbonate walls that have been replaced. Those have a limited lifespan. They sometimes don't last more than 10 years. Prospient has offered a 10-year warranty on any work that they do to replace the glazing. It is required to be replaced because I'll show you in before and after pictures coming up, but essentially it is responsible for two things: insulation and light transmission. Both of those things are really important to running an efficient greenhouse where you don't have to add a bunch of supplemental lighting. You want it to be translucent as much as possible, but also have an insulative factor. Here's some other examples. These ones down here at the bottom are showing the difference between a before and after. So they're in the middle of converting these exhaust fans, which are part of the cooling system, over into a higher efficiency version. That's an updated model that they're using, and so they would be using that updated model on the Aurora greenhouse. We've also had a number of other experts come to visit the site in addition to Prospient. Prospient did a visit back in 2023 to do an assessment. We've worked with a structural engineer to determine that this building here is structurally sound. In addition to Prospient's site visit, where they took a look at what things need to be changed and made recommendations on changing some of the layout of our heating and cooling system. We also had an ADA expert come to visit and give us a sense of what it's going to take to bring this space up to ADA compliance. And in addition to that, we've had an electrician do a site visit to get us a sense of what kind of changes to the electrical panel would need to be made in order to accommodate an increase in electrical equipment here. So this is what the greenhouse looks like right now. That's me walking down the middle of the aisle there, taking a look at what we have to work with. And then I want to give you a sense of, this is an artist rendition of what it could look like afterwards. We actually worked with a CU Denver student to develop these sort of visions for the future. So you can see there's going to be rolling benches here. These are tabletop benches that you put the seedling plants on. They have like a mesh wire so you can overhead water them if you need to. We also are looking at sub-irrigation as a methodology for water conservation in this space. But this gives you an idea. So you can see actually one of the main upgrades is this wall that's along, I don't know if you can see my cursor, the brown wall that's along the east side there is actually going to be part of the evaporative cooling system. So it's called a wet wall. We would replace that entire wall up to the garage door with that evaporative cooling pad. It works kind of like a sweat cooler, if you're familiar with how that works. It's saturated with water. Air is brought through. There's a vent that opens on the outside, and air is drawn through and across the greenhouse through those exhaust fans that are on the other side of the farm. And by changing the orientation of the wet wall, previously it was on a south-facing wall, you're actually giving more exposure, more light exposure to your plants that are inside the greenhouse. You're also increasing airflow throughout your farm, which is going to reduce the electrical costs for running those fans. You can reduce how often and how intensely you need to run those fans and increase air exchange, which is always beneficial for the plants. So that's one rendition, and then here we have another view. This is looking across the farm, so this wall over here is going to be where that wet wall would be located, and there's a garage door right there. We want to keep that in place just for deliveries of large pallets and different items that need to come in. And then after, over here, we want to show you, this is a great space for activating workshops and educational activities that would take place within the greenhouse. And so here we would be teaching people how to bump up or pot up seedlings up into larger plants, larger pots, so that they could be available for sale direct to consumer.
Thanks, Jenna. So as has already been mentioned, we're committed to the success of this project, including an additional $100,000 capital improvement investment. About half of that is for additional renovation that's beyond the scope of the city's $250,000, and the other half is dedicated to bringing the greenhouses up to ADA accessibility and compliance. This is actually improving the condition of the property above and beyond what it has ever been to ensure that all Aurorans would have access to the programming at the greenhouses. So that would be ADA accessibility in the greenhouse, the administrative building, and the parking areas. With the assumption of the lease, Food Justice Northwest Aurora would assume full responsibility for startup, operations, programming, and maintenance costs, which is to say everything that needs to be paid for at the property, we would be assuming that responsibility. And we're really excited to share that we have already secured the vast majority of the funding needed through 2026. That includes $325,000 that we've already secured for the startup here in 2024. That includes our capital investments, our startup materials, and our personnel. And then we have also raised about $200,000 of each year of operations. Each year of operations requires about $220,000. And so this is a really significant head start on the funding necessary for the success and sustainability of this project. This includes multi-year grants from Colorado Health Foundation, Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, and the Denver Foundation, where we are part of the Transforming Safety grant. That grant recognizes that when you create jobs and you have people who are able to grow food and be more self-reliant, that you can help reduce crime and victimization in a community. We also have grants from Centura Health, Big Green Dow, and a capital grant from the Gates Family Foundation. So we are not only interested in being able to answer your questions today, but also inviting the members of City Council and Mayor Kaufman to do a site visit at the greenhouse, come and see the vision in person yourself. And we just want to thank you for your consideration and support of this innovative and exciting project. Thanks.
No questions? If you could explain this to me, this was sent to me this morning,
Sure,
and it's a screenshot of your website last year.
sure.
And it was taken, you changed it, but it says guiding principles. It says the inequitable modern industrial food system is the intended product of a colonizing and racist system. It was built on stolen land and with stolen labor and continues to exploit many in the food system.
Sure. Thank you for that question, Mayor Kaufman. So that language is, as you stated, no longer on our website, and it refers back to a time period when this was a startup community effort. We recognize that language as very divisive. And in this effort, we know that food and food systems connect to everyone's lives, connect to everyone's basic health and well-being. We recognize that as detrimental language to the work that we're doing. We've removed that, and we do not put that forward as our present guiding principle. I know that what was one of the questions and concerns that was brought up last year in August, and one of the requests that came from, I believe, Councilmember Bergen, was an addition to the lease agreement that defined and created rules and regulations around political activity. So one of the updates to the lease that has occurred since we last had the opportunity to present to you is an addition to the lease that also defines what political activity and activism is, and states that it is not allowed on the property or using any resources that are at the property. So we have done our best to address your concern within the lease, and of course are not using that language in our organization's communication with the public.
Further questions, comments? Seeing none, and let me just say I'm uncomfortable with the amount of money that we're spending on this, and so I would ask you to reconsider raising the money to do the renovation. Is that possible?
So, wait, Mayor, what are you,
Oh, Councilmember Moreno.
can you just clarify, are you suggesting that we don't fund this at all?
Well, we could certainly lease them without funding it, but yes, that would be my suggestion. Go ahead, please.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Mayor Kaufman. So this property is a property of the city, and the city retains the asset. And in our discussions with potential funders of the project, foundations, et cetera, one of the things that they find really innovative and exciting about this project is the partnership between the city and a community-based organization. Generally speaking, for a nonprofit, capital improvement funds are some of the most limited opportunities for funding. We are able to leverage significant funding to sustain, to put in operations, to hire and create new staff positions, to provide educational programming for the community. And much of that is on the excitement that this would be a partnership with the city, that the city is also investing, and that the city is seeing the co-benefit. So we would be very excited to be marketing with the city, sharing the successes of this work as a success of the city of Aurora, that this is a public asset, that this asset is being used with the community. It may be challenging to raise the full amount of the capital improvement when we are asking, when essentially we do not own the asset ourselves. It could be a very difficult proposition with a foundation.
Further questions, comments?
I just have a question.
Councilmember Lawson.
So how much do you have on hand in terms of fundraising How much do you have on hand?
Yes, for this year, we have 325,000. That includes our 100,000 for capital improvements, as well as that is the funding for our personnel. So our greenhouse manager, our greenhouse assistant manager, our sales and education coordinator, as well as the greenhouses are essentially empty or will be completely empty when Pros makes their move.
So you have 325,000 right now on hand.
And that is for our, so only 100,000 of that is for capital. The other is restricted funding for personnel and for materials costs and startup costs.
Further questions?
Mayor,
Councilmember Jaworski.
yeah, I will be very honest, I heard what the mayor said, but I don't even think it's fair to give you guys that hope, that if you go out and raise the additional funds on your own, that we would be able to have this conversation. Because I think the majority of this council feels like you can take it off your website, but we know that's what you fundamentally believe. And it absolutely goes against what the majority of this council believes. And that statement is not something that you can just walk back. So while I agree with the mayor that we shouldn't even consider the funding piece, I'm just going to be very honest, and I'm going to say I don't want you to have false hope that you can go raise these funds on your own and come back to us for a lease. That's where I'm going to leave it.
Okay. Question before us right now is the $250,000. Councilmember Mario.
You know, we've talked about this project for some time. I think I've gotten different questions over the years and concerns, and you know, I think that this group has gone above and beyond to prove from a fiscal standpoint all of the ways in which we as city council members have control when we are partnering with an organization through the lease, all of the agreements, soundness in their funding streams, and their ability to operate, having all of the subject matter expertise come to the table to come up with this proposal. When at the end of the day, what we're really talking about is wasted city dollars, city tax dollars. We own this asset and it's just sitting there. You saw in the pictures housing lawnmowers. When we are having conversations about our grocery stores closing down, especially in Northwest Aurora, what I've been told is we need to fortify the infrastructure that we have, support the grocery stores that we do have, and coming up with solutions where we grow our own food and sell locally. And that's really what we're talking about, is an idle city asset that is just sitting there, not being used. This has the full support of all of the food-oriented organizations in Aurora and beyond. They see this as a game changer when it comes to the food ecosystem and sustainability of food production in Aurora. So we can talk about things we don't agree. There's plenty of things I don't agree with that we end up funding, but I believe that their work, even if I don't agree wholly in how they do it, I may not even agree in values. They might say some crazy things on their website or post on social media or otherwise, but we're here to be responsible stewards of city resources, and it's just sitting there when a minimal investment compared to the size of our budget that's already allocated. This has already been earmarked. There's no reason fiscally, financially, that this doesn't make sense. I'm disappointed if this doesn't move forward, because it's just sitting there. It's not being put to use for the community when we have an opportunity to program it and an organization that is ready and equipped and prepared to do so, and could be the difference, of what our food system looks like, a more sustainable food system. So yeah, I mean, I've said that time and time again, so I'm disappointed to hear that we can't see past true benefit to the community that this would bring.
Mayor?
Councilmember Jurenski.
Jason, can you please talk about what Councilmember Mario just said as far as this money already being earmarked? Because from what I understand, that expired and has just gone back into our funding that we could use on capital improvement projects.
Sure. These dollars were appropriated in the 2023 budget. They were put into the capital projects fund. They've not been expended, so they're there. So they haven't been expended, and so it's up to council. If it doesn't move forward, there would be a process where council could reallocate these funds. But at this point, they're sitting there waiting for direction from council as to move forward or not.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, question before us is to appropriate $250,000 to food justice of Northwest Aurora.
Mayor, we actually have two questions. One is about the actual lease itself, and then the second one is
Okay.
the appropriation. So the first one is, does City Council support moving forward with the lease to Equity for the greenhouses at 151 Potomac Street for a 3-year initial term, with the option to extend for an additional 5 years? And then the second question is, does City Council support staff moving forward with city capital repairs to the greenhouses in the amount of $250,000?
Well, to the first question, is there further discussion on the first question? Seeing none, all those in support of the first question, please identify yourself.
Coons.
Mobile.
I'm not opposed to the first question. I am opposed to the second part. So the first part does not move forward. Well, I guess that makes the second part move. Am I correct? Okay. Very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further business before the study session of the Aurora City Council for Monday, July 22nd, 2024, the meeting is adjourned. We will reconvene.